Originally, I was going to do an entire ranking video about every episode from Season 8 of Death Battle, but that meant I would have to spend a lot of time talking about things I found mediocre or I just didn't like. And I didn't really want to put that much negativity out in the world. So instead, I decided to make a video about all of the things that I liked in this particular season of Death Battle. This isn't a list, there's no particular order to the things, and it covers everything from the big stuff to just the little details. Now, with a show as controversial as Death Battle, and with some episodes from this season being especially divisive, there's a good chance you will disagree with me on some of this stuff. And that's totally fine. I'm not here to convince you of anything, I'm just here to share my opinions about what I enjoyed. Feel free to disagree in the comments, but remember to be respectful to one another. We start with something so obvious that it kind of feels unnecessary, and that's to say the animation quality this season was really good. Lots of very good, fast-paced stuff. Whether 2D or 3D, the animation from this season generally was very impressive to me. Shadow vs. Ryuko was a standout for sure, as was Madara vs. Aizen. Many episodes experimented with different styles, giving them all unique feels. I especially loved the claymation section in Macho Man vs. Kool-Aid Man. It was super bouncy and fun, and fit in perfectly with the tone of the episode. Speaking of tone, a number of episodes this season really captured the feeling of their original source material. Some of the best in that regard were Dio vs. Alucard and Steven Universe vs. Star Butterfly. Opposite ends of the spectrum there. Dio Card uses its horror-themed characters very well, and the gothic styling mixes surprisingly well with the wackiness of JoJo. Stephen Fly uses the rainbow aesthetic of modern cartoons, mixed with a decent bit of Steven trauma to give it a noticeable edge. I'd also like to give a shout out to Blake vs. Mikasa, which blended Ruby's acrobatic spectacle combat and the melancholic and analytical feeling of Attack on Titan. The music definitely helped with that. I like Yoda vs. King Mickey. That's a good example of how to bring memes into an episode without having them be obtrusive. And even though the premise of the fight is almost inherently comedic, the actual episode carries a decent amount of reverence for both of the characters. The SFM animation is very good at showing off character emotion, too. I like that Yoda gets to have a sort of arc of his own, mirroring his character progression in the original saga. He even gets to say do or do not, there is no try, without having it sound played out or cliche. I love the scenes they choose to play whenever they finish a character rundown. That's not necessarily specific to this season, but it's just one of my favorite parts, so I figured I'd mention it. Special shout out goes to Yoda, because it uses a clip from the original trilogy. I like that only one, or arguably two, episodes from this season ended with the planet destroyed. It kind of says a lot about the power creep the show has had, that the first time the planet was destroyed in a death battle with Goku vs. Superman, it was this huge, incredible display of power. And then it got destroyed in the middle of Thanos vs. Darkseid, and it was kind of hard to pay attention to or really think about. And then it was destroyed at the end of Wario vs. DDD, and it had no impact and was basically just a joke. Destroying the planet in a death battle became passé, to the point that it blew up before the fight even began in Beerus vs. Sailor Galaxia. This season was a lot more reserved with its mass destruction, and managed to make its scenery gore a lot more impactful. Moments like Saitama ripping off a chunk of the Earth's crust, Alucard flooding the streets with blood, or Bruce hitting Tony with the Watchtower, they just tended to be more effective for me. What's interesting to me is that there were a couple of fights this season where they could have thrown in massive planetary destruction, but they didn't, especially the Marvel and DC fights this season. But I think it's a good thing. It's more interesting to have Lex Luthor pinned to a symbol of his own hubris than to just blow up the planet he lives on. I liked that there was an episode with a reference to Evo Moment number 37, and that same episode had a kill gory enough to be a fatality. It's a bit weird that that wasn't the Street Fighter vs. Mortal Kombat episode, but hey, still cool. There were definitely some great voice acting performances this season. The one that sticks out the most in my mind is Tom Schalk as Dio. I know some people wanted his abridged counterpart to voice him, but I think Schalk does an amazing job. Dio is a character who has been memed to hell and back. I love him, but it's been a while since I've seen him as actually intimidating. The performance in this episode breathes new life into this character and makes even the most overused lines sound fresh. Side note, I think it was a pretty good idea to have the "It was I, Dio" line be played for comedy. That line's been used so much I don't think it could have been intimidating in any context. Additionally, I love the little detail of being able to see where Dio gets all of his knives from. There were plenty of other great voice acting performances this season. Saitama was great, Steven was great, my boy Gianni got to be Lex Luthor and Batman and Shao Kahn. Austin Lee Matthews was almost indistinguishable from Jack Black as Poe, and they even got the original It Was Me Barry guy to do Reverse Flash. But the best voice acting decision from this season was getting Yoshi Amao to voice Heihachi and Brent Mukai to voice Geese Howard. Heihachi speaking convincing Japanese is already really impressive, but having Geese speak in broken English is truly inspired. I also like the little moment in their fight where they're just holding each other, the weight of the battle on their shoulders. It's an interesting display of homoeroticism. I mean, tempo. I like that Steven spends most of his fight trying to de-escalate before he goes pink, and I like that the fight starts over a sandcastle competition. Him turning his watermelon copies into an army is a great counter to Star Summons, and just really cool in general. I don't know if he ever did that in the show, like using them for combat. I haven't watched Steven Universe Future, but it feels like something that his pink state would be able to do. I like the moment in Madara vs. Aizen where Aizen uses his illusion to cut Madara into pieces, and it looks like reality is folding or shattering around his sword swings. It really sells Aizen's status as a master of reality, at least inside his illusions. And the moment of mad laughter was just beautiful. Love it. I think that Korra's sprite from her death battle is super impressive. It's entirely custom, too. I like that there are moments in the animation where punches are propelled by bursts of fire. I also think it's very creative to have visions of previous death battle losers in the background of the spirit world. Speaking of the spirit world, I liked Storm's moment of despair upon being transported there. It was a little clunky, a little bit awkward, but it was unlike anything else we had seen in Death Battle before. And I kind of think we need more moments like that in future episodes. I thought a number of the killing blows this season were pretty creative. I've already touched on Geese's lava death and Luthor's testament to hubris, but there's also Saitama's final fate, Mikasa's Thunderspiel impalement, Korra's lightning shot, and Goku Black's world tour. I like that Yoda's death could have been interpreted as him dying from Mickey's attack, or dying from using the Force to block Mickey's attack. It's a bit clever. Even the episodes with less creative deaths tended to execute them in pretty stylish ways, so they didn't bother me that much. I really like Link vs. Cloud. It can be a bit clunky at times, and not every effect looks good, but there's so much that goes on in that episode that it's really one I enjoy. I like how Link seemed to have a solution for each situation Cloud put him in. He was so inventive and prepared, it honestly felt more like Batman than the actual Batman episode. I love the time stop moment, and the segment with the 4 links. Too often when a combatant duplicates themselves in a death battle, the writer doesn't really know what to do with them. But in this fight, it felt like each link got something cool to do. Mipha's grace being triggered is a great touch, and the moment where the Song of Storms comes in gives me chills almost every time. Time to go over some small moments that I like from a bunch of different episodes. I like Iron Fist's 1-inch punch against Poe near the end of this fight, and I like Poe falling down the stairs. I like Batman bopping out to J-Pop, and him climbing out of the Hellbout unharmed near the end was a great oh snap moment. I like when Dr. Doom says, "Fool, you fell for my time shift bomb," like a cheesy cartoon villain. Akuma shaking off Shao Kahn's soul suck was pretty neat. I like that Korra takes shelter and meditates in order to enter the Avatar state, and I really like the shot of her opening her eyes afterwards. I'm just a sucker for glowing eyes. Popeye putting the storefront back together is really funny. I like that Shadow calls Ryuko a faker. And Reverse Flash knocking Goku Black's tea out of his hand is exactly what he would do. God, he's so petty. Oh, how could I have forgotten to talk about Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash? That episode really demonstrated that even if a fight is a one-sided stomp, it can still be tons of fun. Calling back to Flash vs. Quicksilver was genius, and having Thawne set it up to make Flash a murderer is absolutely brilliant. It sounds like a retcon that DC writers would have done. The fight also has a pretty unique structure, with the first minute or so playing out normal, but then the middle of the fight features the characters time traveling back and forth between the beats of the beginning. And then things calm down so we can take in the impact of the end. And to top it all off, we have smug-ass Eobard Thawne taunting Goku Black right before the killing blow. Gah, what a dick. I love him so much. The season finale is really good all around, but you already knew that. Everyone knows all the good things about Saitama vs. Popeye. It's really funny, fits both characters well, and it was genius to switch between animation styles throughout the fight to show the character's strength. There's also this really small moment in the fight that I like. It's the transition from the 3D section to the final hand-drawn section. Popeye grabs Saitama and spins him around, and for a second it looks like he's going to throw him into Jupiter in the background, but instead he throws him forward, shattering the fourth wall and bringing us into the last stretch of the fight. I also think the final section of Saitama vs. Popeye is just great in general, probably because the episode takes a moment to breathe, letting Saitama express his feelings at finally finding a worthy opponent. And the shot of the two of them crossing the solar system to punch each other, really a great image to end the season on. Ultimately, Season 8 of Death Battle is both inspiring and inspired. I came out of every episode wanting to write, wanting to get my feelings down on paper, wanting to create something that could draw in as many people as this show. I don't know if this video is going to do that. In fact, I know it won't. But I'm still glad that I made it. Because there's value, even in a show like Death Battle, or videos talking about Death Battle. I think more people should be able to just share their interests and talk about anything. So, thanks for letting me do that today. And for the fans of Death Battle out there, what did you think of Season 8? Did you enjoy it? Were you not as positive as I was about it? That's totally fine too. Try to think about why you didn't like it. Put your feelings out there. Just remember to be respectful and be kind. Thanks for watching, and let's hope Season 9 of Death Battle blows us all away.